Welcome to Life in Marketing. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Tom.
Today we're chatting to Megan Fellows, who is a senior CRM exec at Screwfix.
Megan has been extremely busy working not only full-time in her job, but also working towards her PhD in marketing, which she hopes to complete this year, 2026.
We're excited to chat with Megan about why customer relationship management is a crucial aspect of marketing success.
Let's meet Megan.
Megan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
And welcome from me too. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
So your title is CRM exec, and just for people that aren't familiar with job titles like that, that is customer relationship manager?
It's customer relationship management. Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of, you could either look at it as customer relationship marketing or customer relationship management, but I think that's dependent on what business you're in, as to what terminology they prefer. But I think because our business does span across a lot, we would prefer like the customer relationship management, and it's more apt as well, for sure.
How would you explain it in sort of simple terms what CRM really is and what's the crucial aspect of it for a business?
I would say for CRM, I would personally define it as like the understanding of what your customers do, as well as their kind of standard demographics. But to basically get an illustration on who they are, how they behave, look at, what gives you that kind of illustration now, but then also look at what you can kind of shape it to be in the future.
And broadly for Screwfix, that focuses on email marketing, does it?
So again, it's across multiple different channels. So we have our Screwfix app, which we've also launched in Ireland as well. So a big part of my role is working across UK and Ireland and managing those stakeholders. I've also been recently working in with like the international team as well and working on Screwfix France. But they also have things like DM, so direct mail, which, for anyone who is a long Screwfix customer will know we had the catalogue and then moved towards like digital channels. And we still have sort of like direct mail every now and again. But yeah, in terms of the actual channels that we support on, we've got the app, which is our kind of like home of rewards. We've got email, we've got SMS, but within our CRM team, particularly in my role, it's more email and SMS as opposed to anything else. Yeah, because our side of the team is trading comms, so we look at like the everyday, and the predominant is email and SMS for those customers. So yeah.
You're currently a senior CRM exec at Screwfix. Could you potentially give us a bit of an overview of what your role looks like day to day?
Yeah, sure. I mean, to be honest, it's a mixed bag of everything. I specialize in email marketing. So our CRM team is split, but a lot of my role is looking at kind of like the end-to-end deployment of emails and SMS comms. So I work across various different departments and do a lot of relationship management with different departments. So marketing, commercial, digital trading as well, because that's a very big element of it. Looking at what's trending when it comes to searches, as well as what we've actually got planned as part of like our business priorities and requirements based on each season.
So it's interesting that there's so much effort in your role on communicating with existing customers. People often assume that marketing is all about getting new customers and driving sales from new customers, but actually, I guess it's perhaps even more profitable just to focus on the existing customers and keep them coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big advocate for customer retention anyway. I think a big question of mine to any business would be like, why would you not focus on the customers that are regular spenders? I mean, if you're thinking about it from purely like a profitability point of view, you've got those customers in the palm of your hand anyway. And I think that's across whether they are a digital customer or whether they are like set foot into a bricks and mortar store. You've got those customers in the palm of your hands. And I think, a big part of that is to focus on the retention, but also an element of CRM, and particularly within my role as well, one of the big questions is how do we keep these customers feeling special and feeling valued? And that's a very, very big element of it. And it's also one of the big reasons why we launched the rewards program, was that we wanted these customers to feel valued. You know, they go into store multiple times a week. They spend multiple times as what a one-off customer would necessarily do. So why aren't we rewarding them with something valuable as well in return? So yeah, I think the biggest part of CRM is understanding, you know, what your customers do, not just in store or online, but also, you know, just generally how they behave.
And I just ask you about how you got into this and what drew you to marketing, because I know we will talk about your PhD in a minute, and so obviously you've studied this and enjoy studying this so much that you wanted to do a PhD. But what originally made you so interested in studying marketing, undergraduate, postgraduate, but also working in marketing? What is it about marketing that particularly drew you?
Yeah, it's kind of, I won't lie, it's a bit twofold. So, I mean, a big part of it is when I started my university, I guess, career, my academic career, I originally started doing English and drama. And then I was like, no, this is not for me. Like my grades it was reflected in my grades, and I was just not, I wasn't enjoying it. And, you know, I kind of had to step back and go, okay, well, what did I actually want to do to begin with? And that was events management. And I think because it spans across various different bits. So, you know, you're looking at finance, you're looking at project planning, you're looking at geography. There's an element of sociology in there when you're looking at crowd control. And it's all those working parts that kind of drew me into it. And then when it got to the end of my undergraduate degree, I was kind of like, I don't know what to do next. And at the time, the degree was also a sandwich one. So you had a placement year, I think, between second and third year. But because I'd already used a year's worth of funding for English, I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to see it out. But then I was like, I'm going to need something to do on top of that. And so I had a master's kind of like in my brain of I want to do something as a master's. And then I think I looked at business management. I looked at digital and social media marketing. I can't remember what else I looked at, but it ended up being digital and social media marketing is the one that stuck. I think because I ultimately looked at it and I was like, it's so relevant. You know, I enrolled 2018, so it was super relevant at the time. I don't know, it was just something to do with like the actual like theory of it alongside the practical side of it that kind of drew me into it a lot more. And then also looking beyond that, I was like, there's just so much that I can do with it. Which is also why, yeah, that's the kind of one that stuck. So yeah.
And I guess over time you've kind of you know, filtered and funneled down to something quite specific in digital marketing. You started out with English, then events management, and then digital social media, and now it's specifically CRM that you focus on in your current role. Was there a particular moment when you thought, actually, of all the things that I could do in digital marketing, this is the bit that I really want to focus on?
When it came to CRM, it was kind of a bit of a thrown in at the deep end part, as it were. So I started my CRM career in an agency. And it was only by chance because I'd actually, funnily enough, gone for a PPC role because I was like, this is just kind of progressively my next step. And then it was only by chance that someone in their CRM team had left, and so they wanted me to kind of fill in for that instead. But it was through that, and then also again like that cross comparison with PPC versus CRM is that it's kind of a combination between the two. Like you get to look at the data and you get to look at what works well, what doesn't work well, and then combine that with the creativity of what the brand is and looking at, okay, well, how is this tone of voice going to be resonant with this customer? I think that's the bit that I love, and I love the testing side of it as well. Like, you know, there's a very, I've got the philosophy of something's either going to work or it doesn't, and you don't know until you've tried it. And so that's why personally I love testing anyway. Because, you know, you can kind of hedge your bets with a lot of testing, but until you actually do it, then you don't actually know. So it's very trial and error. But yeah, when it comes to CRM, I think it's a nice balance between the two. I can be creative with it. obviously within reason, because you have brand guidelines for a reason. But also I think when it comes to the actual analytics side of it, I think that's also, yeah, a lot of where my interest lies in what's worked well, what hasn't, what can you do to kind of, I guess, as the next step, what can you do to further that test and solidify it? But then also look at like anomalies and things.
Is it important to have an understanding of stats and maybe qualitative techniques too, in order to do your role and similar roles?
I would say it is important, but I wouldn't put pressure on it to begin with. Like, you don't need to know the full ins and outs from the offset. I mean, I won't lie, like the whole module for my MSc for big data and analytics, I absolutely tanked that. It was awful. But the beauty of it is that when I was actually in industry, that's when it all kind of changed, because I was able to develop like a muscle memory to understanding what means what. And from business to business, terminology will be different. But it's the core understanding that you do develop as you're actually doing it in practice. So I think, there's an element of, the theory side of it. But even if it's like your weakest element, don't think that it's kind of that's set in stone, because it's definitely not. I wouldn't have thought that I would have understood data and analytics when I was doing my MSc, because like I said, it was awful. But I mean, the best part of it was that I managed to develop those skills within within business and within industry, and looking at other platforms, such as like Braze or Klaviyo, which are the platforms that I've worked in the past. They provide all that insight for you, and they break it down in such a way that it is really easy to digest and understand, but also provide those benchmarks as well. So if you're looking at analytics, and you're looking at your data and going, oh, it's not done very well this week, you can then look at it holistically and say, is this reflective of the business, or is this reflective of the landscape? And I think that's also an element that people often forget, is that it is not meant to stay stagnant in one place. There will always be peaks and troughs, and that's also where the opportunity lies. Is then, if you are in that trough, how do you then come out to the peak quicker or for a longer period of time?
We usually, most of the guests we do speak about sort of AI and developments and how it's changed some of the work you do. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of email marketing and how the developments of AI, in particular Gen AI, has changed your role?
Yeah, sure. I mean, to be honest with you, we're not green to AI, but it's something that we are still kind of going through a bit of a process, from a due diligence point of view on how we implement it. But I mean, generally speaking, AI it provides so much in terms of additional resource that we wouldn't have necessarily had. It allows you to kind of think outside of the box when it comes to things like testing. Testing's a very big element of that. And it could be things such as like subject lines, something that, from an outsider's perspective would be so simple. But when you're looking at testing, and you've been doing it for a while, you're kind of almost tunnel visioned, and you kind of get to a bit of a writer's block to be like, what do I put in here? And it's only through like the Gen AI that does that kind of outside of the box thinking for you, that allows you to generate those additional testing ideas. I think there's also an element of, building email copy. I think there's also an element of, when it comes to AI, what can be done as from a technological point of view as well. There's also a very big part of that. So whether, you want to do something dynamic, and especially with customers that you don't necessarily know about yet, looking at what knowledge AI already has, and understanding those customers more when you are only new to a particular subset of customers.
For listeners hoping to get into CRM or sort of email marketing, what practical steps would you recommend they take right now?
I would say there is no harm in looking at things like benchmarking reports, industry reports, looking at what campaigns you think do really well versus what emails you get in your inbox that don't do as well, and even just noting those down. If you're looking at getting into CRM, looking at yeah, those particular elements, if you're wanting to get into a digital channel anyway, I think there is an element of, if you want to go into things like direct mail or that side of things, I think again, I would probably adopt the same principles, but I would be mindful that generally from what I've experienced, it's not being phased out as such. It's just very scarce that you would have direct mail, unless you were someone, like Tesco or Boots, who still do like direct mail very frequently for their Advantage cards or Club card customers. So I think make note of the ones that you think do well. Make a note of the ones that you don't think do well. But then also, go on to the platforms like Klaviyo and Braze. Just go onto their website and look at their industry reports, because they're so insightful. Even as I was starting out, I was looking at them. I wouldn't say religiously, but I was looking at them frequently enough to understand, okay, well, what's the landscape looking like? But then, flipping on its head and go, okay, well, where's the opportunity lying here? And especially working in industry, working for an agency as well, you kind of work across various different brands with various different customers. And just being able to kind of have that holistic view is kind of integral to it, really. But then also being open-minded to A/B testing. And looking at, if you are in an interview and you get the question of what could we do differently, using like an A/B testing example would be great. I think it allows you to push yourself in understanding where the opportunities are lying.
Okay, we're going to turn now to your academic career, because alongside your digital marketing career, you've also been a student for quite a while. I think you describe yourself as a forever student. You did an undergraduate degree, then a postgraduate degree, and now you're a PhD student too. How has being a PhD student, or maybe being a student in any guise over the last few years, how has that changed the way you think about marketing practice?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a running joke in my family. My auntie will always say that I'm the forever student. Every Christmas, she's always like, "Are you still there?" And I'm like, "I swear, I've only got a few more months to go." But I mean, when it comes to my academic career, generally, I've always loved learning. I've always loved researching and finding things out for myself, and so it probably taps into my neurodivergence a little bit, in that I've always wanted to know the reasons why. I've always been the one to be like, but why is that a thing? Or, why does that happen? And when it came to my undergraduate and my MSc, like it was great because it was taught. And then, I was able to build upon that and understand those why questions. The beauty of my PhD is that it's all my own research, and it's all the questions that I'm asking myself. And I think, a very big part of it, because my PhD is specializing in consumer behavior, how customers behave online, how that then can benefit businesses in the more authentic social listening. A big part of that is, again, understanding the why questions. So why do customers behave in this way online, and looking at their offline contexts and their lived experiences and things like that. Again, to provide that illustration as to, okay, well, is that the reason why they behave this way? And again, it's part of the whole understanding the reason why, but being able to own it myself, and providing that out of the box thinking for myself. It's not without its challenges, that's safe to say. And yeah, working full time as well just adds that little bit of stress to the pot, which, just keeps life ticking. But yeah, like I wouldn't change it for the world, honestly.
And is there anything in particular that you really want to know by doing your PhD? What's the ultimate question you're trying to answer through your PhD studies?
So the ultimate question is, how do the lived experiences of customers, and I guess people offline, how does that play into how they behave online and online social medias in particular? So how have offline subcultures become online communities? And is that one would think that it's just traditionally adopting to Web 2.0, 3.0, and so on and so forth. But then there's also the element of, if they are younger, does that play into a part of it, and what platforms they adopt to quicker? And again, on the opposite end of it is, for older people who, wouldn't necessarily have adapted to it in the first instance. How does that also impact how they behave online? Looking at what platforms resonate the most with these particular subsets of people, but then also ultimately how that holistically comes together, but then also understanding how businesses can understand the collectives of individuals. So if they've got a target demographic of, this age group, this social class, et cetera, how can we then build upon that and understand, what collectives of online communities do they actually belong to? And then looking into how do they communicate? Can we tap into something like that and resonate through that respect, I guess?
Can I ask you too whether there's anything that you've learned along the way, maybe through your PhD or masters before that, that's helped you to become better at your job in CRM currently? Are there any particular theories or principles or anything that you've particularly picked up that you think underpins successful CRM?
I think there's an element of striking a balance of being proactive versus reactive, if you're thinking along that kind of line. So, for me, I have to plan everything to the nth degree. And, there's that element of being proactive and kind of almost trying to be one step ahead. But then there's also that element of agility and being reactive that you also need to incorporate. So, within CRM and particularly in Screwfix, there's an element of being proactive in that, we're supporting these campaigns that are coming up in the next season, or, we're supporting with this campaign for summer, et cetera, et cetera. But then also, we have to react to business requirements and business priorities. So not only is it putting the customer first, but then it's also layering on, okay, well, what product category is not doing particularly well, or how can we support a different campaign that's coming in last minute, or what ad hoc stuff are we doing that we can support with as a channel. I think within my PhD there is a need to be reactive in that I might have something come out of left field from my data collection that I then also need to consider. When it comes to analysis, when I actually look at the analysis itself, what happens if something comes out of left field and it's not planned and it's not what I thought was going to happen? And I mean, the beauty of my research is it is all interpretive and it is all subjective. So again, it's really ingrained within that philosophy that there is an element of reactivity in that, but it's just being comfortable with the reactivity as well as the proactivity that I think is a very big part. And I think, yeah, it works hand in hand in both industry and from an academic perspective for sure.
Megan, it's super interesting listening to you. Before we let you go, we usually have some quick fire questions for our guests. So please just say the very first thing that comes to mind. If you had to think about your favorite marketing campaign of all time.
Oh, I would say it's not CRM, admittedly, but the M&S Aldi back and forth arguments, just they bring me so much joy in the morning. I won't lie. I look at it on TikTok or on socials, and yeah, it's just the way that they reacted to it has been so jovial. Yeah, I love it. It's M&S Aldi for sure.
Yeah, I love the Aldi sort of brand voice as well. It's very entertaining. Is there one tool or app that you can't live without?
Yes, Notion, without a shadow of a doubt. I use it for my PhD planning. I use it for I built like a whole dashboard for our team with everything in it. I also have it, sadly enough, for my own personal life when I have like to-do lists, which I'm abundant in those. So yeah, I would definitely say Notion without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah.
Fantastic. What would you say is the most underrated skill in marketing?
Underrated skill. I would say open-mindedness, I think. I think because if you're in one area, it's easy to think that that's the only field that you're going to go into. But I think by I guess adopting like an open-mindedness to this might not be the channel that you stick to, and being open-minded to, I guess, flitting between the two, like flitting between multiple, in my case, it means that, you're open to looking at what works well for you, what doesn't work well for you. So yeah, I would definitely say open-mindedness.
And last question, what's the biggest misconception about working in marketing?
I would say the biggest misconception is that it's channeled in one particular avenue. A lot of people say it's all just creative. It's not. There are so many different facets to marketing that unless you're in it, you don't realize. It's the same with events management, if I'm honest, because the amount of times that people would say, "Oh, so you're a party planner then?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." But it's the same kind of thing. So I think people will often assume that, you know, you're savvy in design, or you're savvy in editing, or you're savvy in social media. It's always one of those. And I think there's an element of being able to kind of educate on it's not just the one thing. There's so many different melting pots that become marketing.
Thank you so very much, Megan, for being on our podcast today. How could people get in touch if they wanted to connect with you? What's the best way?
Best way is 100% LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn for sure.
And you are Meg, not Megan, on LinkedIn,
I'm
correct?
Meg Fellows on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for giving it your time today. Really useful insights into your career, but also your academic life. So, yeah, all the best with your PhD. I think you're reasonably close to completion. So hopefully 2026 might be the year when you finally get your thesis finished. So fingers crossed.
It won't be the forever student, which is great.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.